we're going to talk about how to think like a scientist. Scientists often explain how or why something happens, or sometimes they even make predictions about what they think could happen in the future. In order to do those things, scientists have to first gather information about their topic, and they do so by making observations. Next, scientists probably are going to explain those observations by making an inference. And if their inferences are correct, a scientist might be able to predict what will happen in the future. So in order to think like a scientist, we need to be able to make good observations, inferences, and predictions. So we're going to start with the difference between an observation and an inference. An observation is gathering of information by using your senses, your sight, your smell, hearing, taste, touch, those things you learned about on the first day of kindergarten. There are two types of observations. These might be words that are new to you: qualitative observations and quantitative observations. A qualitative observation describes what we observe. Quality. It's descriptive. You're going to be using an adjective to describe something. For example, the flower has white petals. The petals are white. That's a qualitative observation. Another example, Mrs. Powers has blue eyes. Again, I'm using an adjective to describe the appearance of something we observe. Quantitative observations measure what we observe. So here we're talking about the quantity of something, which is a numerical value. We usually use numbers to measure something in a quantitative way. For example, the flower has 7 petals, or Mrs. Powers has 2 eyes. Both numbers to make an observation. Both types of observations are valuable in science. In an experiment, though, quantitative observations can be precisely and objectively compared. Qualitative observation, the road is long. It describes the road being long. Quantitative, however, tells us that the road is 5 kilometers long. It's measuring the length of the road. Some things are easier to quantify than others. Scientists use innovative ways of turning qualitative into quantitative observations. For example, someone might say that a dead fish is smelly. It's hard to know just how smelly the fish is, though, right? What you think is smelly and what I think is smelly could be 2 different things. To make this quantitative, the scientist could ask the person to rate the smelliness on a scale of 1 to 5. This way, we could then compare exactly how smelly the fish is. Inferences are an explanation for an observation you've made. They're based on your past experience or your prior knowledge. Inferences are often changed when a new observation is made. So you might change your mind when you learn something new. Again, remember, observations are information we gather directly through our 5 senses, but an inference helps to explain those observations. Here are some examples. An observation: the grass on the school's front lawn is wet. How can we explain that observation? A possible inference would be, it rained last night, or the sprinklers were on this morning. There's dew on the grass from this morning, or maybe even a dog urinated on the grass. Really, it could have happened. All of these inferences could possibly explain why the grass is wet. They're all based on prior experience. We've all seen rain, we've all seen a sprinkler, morning dew, or dogs going to the bathroom on the grass. Here's another example. Observation: the school fire alarm is going off. Possible inference, our explanation to our observation: the school's on fire. Could be. We're having a fire drill. That could be. Or maybe someone pulled the fire alarm, although I hope not. But they could have. Again, these are all logical explanations for why the fire alarm is going off. Remember, we're trying to explain our observation. And one last one. Here's an observation. Maybe you've been there. A student is sitting in the office. What are some possible inferences based on your prior knowledge? Why do you think the student is sitting there?